Welcome back to the first episode of How I Am Thinking About It. This is the show that I have been teasing for a very long time right now, and I will not lie to you, this is very intimidating, and this is something that I have prepared for, but in the spirit of the thesis of this entire journey, I'm going to come in a little bit unprepared, and I will be just speaking from the heart, essentially, where I don't want to say from the heart, but I want to say from the mind, because I just recently came across a clip yesterday where there's a speaking expert, this guy, I think his name is Vin, and his essentially his gist is he goes around and he helps people with their ability to speak, and a lot of them are very intelligent, smart people, and they just have trouble with speaking, whether it be because of their insecurities, whether it be because they haven't practiced it, whether it be because of shyness. And so he does a very good job in terms of giving tips and strategies for being able to speak. And one of the things that he mentioned that I came across yesterday was the ability to develop the strength of connection between the mind and the mouth. And this is what I'm essentially going to try to do today. There's like 20 things that are going on in my mind. There's a lot of, should I say this or should I not say this? And then what ends up happening is my mouth doesn't end up responding correctly. So essentially what I'm going to talk about today is what I end up, see, there it is again. I'm going to try to give an explanation on what I'm trying to do with this show. So with this show, I'm going to essentially try to explain the way I think about things. So right now I have essentially, if I pull it up here, I have something that I'm planning on releasing in tomorrow's episode with regards to how I approach writing and how I approach writing with artificial intelligence, because I have a lot of thoughts and concerns with the way writing is changing, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence. And should I give you a little bit of a teaser? The title is going to be something along the lines of AI is good at generating words, but writing is not just generating words. So something along those lines. So, and I'm going to be talking about the idea of AI not being able to replicate or replace the active human process of thinking. And essentially that's what this show is going to be. I want to document the active process of me getting better in terms of talking about the things I'm currently thinking about. And also there's going to be an angle in which I'm going to develop a comfort level with my speaking ability. So I'm going to be able to, eventually this is what I want to do. I want to be able to see where I am in 100 days or in 100 episodes and see where I am right now and with this video and see the difference that takes place. And obviously there is a level of anxiety and a level of, being someone who is kind of like averse to speaking on camera for the world to see. And this is essentially my last, I don't want to say my last, but this is, how do I say this? This is like my, first time where I'm really going out of my way to really go all in on content. Actually, that's not even true. How do I say this properly? What I'm trying to say is this is essentially, the first time where I am really feeling like content creation can be something that I can, do full time. I've done content creation in the past in, with multiple projects. I've started it, then ended it for some reason, and I've had like a lot of people tell me, get into content creation, but content creation has been one of those things that I've kind of stayed away from as being someone who is kind of shy and has obviously over time become, more of a person that is, that enjoys being behind the scenes and doesn't enjoy putting themselves out there. So this is like the first time where I'm really actively breaking that mold, but also at the same time feeling like this is something that is, something that I feel like is legit. So putting those two things together, it's a very, weird situation that I'm currently in. So essentially what I am going to discuss on the show is a variety of different topics. So whether it be sports, whether it be like earlier, artificial intelligence and technology, that's something I'm very interested in. Maybe a little bit of current events, how I'm thinking about current events, because that's a very juicy topic nowadays. We can even talk about strategy and business. That's something I've been into the last few years, and maybe discuss some of the lessons and some of the failures, and maybe even the few successes that I've had with business. So this is just the first video that I'm going to put out there. It's very raw. It's going to be the first episode officially. Maybe we can call it episode, I don't know, like 0.5, because it's very short, and tomorrow may be the real episode. But essentially what I want to do is to, like I said, develop that mind-to-mouth connection, develop the habit also of being able to speak on camera, get comfortable on camera, and record the journey of being on camera. And then over time, the vision of what I have, I hope will come to light, and we're going to get really into the weeds of how I like to think about things. But that's going to take some time. It's going to take some time for me to develop that comfort level being on camera and opening up for the world to see, because there is a level of fear, like I said, right, with whatever I put out there is going to be critiqued. So right now it's very raw, it's very real. I believe that right now I'm just yapping and blabbering, which is something I tend to do, but it's not a problem, because it's more so the idea of putting things out there right now is more important to me than being polished and prepared. But eventually what we want to do, and I want to do, is put myself out there and see the progress, like I said. So right now I'm just yapping. The mind-to-mouth connection right now is very off. Right now the mouth is doing a lot of the work, and the mind is kind of just taking a back seat. So hopefully we can get those two together, and hopefully tomorrow we're going to get into the first real breakdown. Obviously I kind of want to do two shows at the same time. So one show is going to be this daily show, which is going to be a little bit more raw, almost like a podcast kind of feel. And I want to have another show which I want to call What I Am Thinking About After Dark. That's where I'm going to really get into the really heavy stuff for the people who are really into that, like the really deep analysis stuff. And again, I'm doing this off the top of my head. So essentially my job right now that I want to do eventually is become some sort of analyst, right? Analysis is essentially something that I'm starting to feel like is something I do pretty well, and I want to be able to develop that skill set and become someone who's a very good analyst. And I feel like I can do it with multiple domains. So maybe eventually we can do something in relationship in relation to sports, for example. We could do maybe, I'm less into the sports, what you call the sports, the day-by-day trades and that kind of stuff, like what's on the court. And I'm really into the off-the-court stuff. So things like management, things like how organizations think, things like, how general managers work, things like the business side of sports, things like the finance side of sports. That's the stuff I'm really into right now. And I think it's a good time for me to start talking about those things, because I'm actively getting more and more interested in that as someone who has been watching sports for a very long time. So that's one area. Maybe we can do some sort of program around that. With regards to business, maybe I know there's a lot of business content out there, and I don't want to end up repeating and regurgitating all like the business ideas, because A, I'm not someone who's an expert in business. I haven't been successful in business. B, I'm not someone who's old enough to be able, or experienced enough to be able to talk about lessons. And C, there's so much business knowledge out there with the rise of AI that I feel like it's kind of essentially like a cheap way of of trying to make content, trying to talk about business. No, but I might touch on some unique experiences that I may have had with trying to get into business, and then maybe give an idea of the experience that I have, the lesson that I have learned. That's maybe like a basic business lesson, and then connect that to the experience that I have. Also, maybe we can even talk about some of the business lessons that I have learned, maybe some business books that I have and really like. I think there's some really solid business books that I have read that aren't in the mainstream lists of great business books. So maybe I can give some reviews and some like a shout out of sorts to those great business books. Maybe do almost like a book club kind of thing. With regards to technology, I'm really interested in more of the strategy behind why technology companies do what they do, and especially artificial intelligence is one. Although I'm kind of out of that phase, I think, where I'm been really into artificial intelligence. I've been out of that phase. I'm now more into the content creation aspect of things. But maybe we can talk about artificial intelligence. Maybe we can talk about the different models. Actually, let's not talk about the different models. Maybe we can talk about the strategy behind what the different companies are doing, and maybe that can link into business and strategy, things that I like, and maybe say, okay, X company, maybe an OpenAI, for example, is doing X. How will they respond to Anthropic, for example, or how will Gemini come in? So those kinds of things I'm really interested in keeping up. Maybe this is like my sports background also kicking in, where I like the competitive aspect of seeing how technology companies are affecting the innovation of all of this technology. Maybe we can even talk about ideas that I'm currently interested in with regards to data centers, for example. That's something that is that's a very hot topic right now. Really do a deep dive. Maybe you can join me on that journey of trying to understand how these data centers work, and whether or not all the claims, whether it's pro data center and anti data center, like trying to figure out, okay, like what's the truth here, trying to figure out what's true or not, what's true or false about data centers. Two, maybe we can talk about things like the supply chain. That's something I'm very interested in right now, and how the supply chain, again, connecting to current events, is affecting our daily lives with regards to electricity, with regards to these artificial intelligence companies getting maybe these like large swaths of land, and and help to build these data centers, how that is going to affect the electrical grid with regards to what's going on around the world, and the current events that affects the supply chain. So I want to be able to connect all these different ideas and topics that I feel like all come together at the end of the day, and just think out loud and explain things to you. I know obviously the engagement on this might not be so good, but that's not a problem. But this is just to, like I said, to develop the mind to mouth connection, essentially, and get my ideas out there, and also to think out loud as well, and for you to also be a part of this as well, in a way, and chip in your ideas and your thoughts and opinions on whatever it is that I discuss, because it's an active process, right? Like between us. We can also maybe talk about the business side of content creation. This is something I'm getting into, and I find it to be very fascinating. I think this is a very interesting time for content creation. Obviously, again, with the rise of artificial intelligence, with the current events that are taking place, and a lot of people maybe moving into content creation as a new job or new career off the backs of the rise of artificial intelligence. Maybe potentially, maybe we can even talk about this. The reduction of high paying jobs, people getting fired, low paying jobs, people potentially getting fired. So maybe people move into artificial intelligence. But then again, there's the other interesting aspect. Information now is very accessible now through artificial intelligence when it comes to all sorts of different things. I can just pull up my phone and type in and learn anything that I want. So how will that affect content creation? Maybe that's something we talk about. So there's going to be a lot of different topics and things that I'm going to be learning about, yes, but also thinking about, and then explaining it all to you in terms of in terms of when it comes to the length of the show. I don't know. Right now, I'm thinking about maybe doing 20 to 30 minutes, per show. Obviously, I don't know how long the show has taken. Maybe it's taken about 15 minutes, but it's going to be pretty short. Maybe I want to do 20 to 30 minutes. Obviously, I'm getting my setup, my setup. I'm trying to get it, set up right now. I don't know the right word for setup, the right word that you can use for setup, but essentially the setup is being set up. And so obviously when the right equipment and the right tools come into place, maybe we can do some streams, maybe we can do longer form videos, but rest assured, this is going to be a daily show. And hopefully I have some ideas for maybe a bunch of shows that I want to do. Maybe there's like 3 or 4 unique shows that I want to end up producing. And yeah, maybe we can tap into my love for, watching current events, and maybe we can have like our own, channel of sorts, and maybe have like a bunch of shows, maybe 10, 15, 20, 25 shows that all run throughout the week, and you can learn a lot of these really interesting topics that aren't made accessible to young people and to people to essentially this generation. This generation, I mean Gen Z, and obviously the generation that is younger than that. Maybe we can even add some millennials as well. But these topics, these high level topics, I feel like are obviously there's a lot of really great stuff that's put out there for people to consume. With regards to the information, but I feel like there isn't that really like solid analysis, lane, or a set of shows. Maybe there's obviously, I guarantee there's shows out there, but I'm just saying it's not like, I think what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of information out there, a lot of shows and a lot of content with regards to information, but there's not a lot of shows that take that information, couple it with analysis, but also teach you how to do that analysis and be able to do it on your own, which is essentially, again, another one of my theses that I have with regards to content creation, to really help people be able to think for themselves and talk about things, because a lot of these things you pick up on your own. For example, like sports. I know I'm talking to a lot of people with regards to sports, and a lot of my peers that weren't necessarily interested in sport. I know a few that weren't necessarily interested in sports are now trying to get interest, or are now getting involved in sports. So how do you help them understand sports? For example, I saw a clip the other day. How can they learn about the beauty of sports with regards to strategy, with regards to set plays? For example, like me, I watch a lot of American football, or I used to watch a lot of American football, not necessarily now, but I still, despite watching it for almost 10 years now, I still don't understand how some of the plays work. So how do you learn that? How do you make that more accessible? This is why a lot of these newer content with regards to sports are doing an incredible job helping people understand sports from a fundamental perspective. Maybe I can try to do something like that for these, essentially maybe we can do something like that, but with regards to all of these topics like artificial intelligence, technology, business, current events, and help people, learn the fundamentals to be able to connect all of those things. So essentially right now I'm running, I think just under 20 minutes. So I think that's where I'm going to end it for today. I think now I feel a little bit warmed up with regards to how comfortable I feel talking. And I feel like if I end up talking, for 2 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, that things will, come more naturally and more flowy. I can even see right now the change that has happened from the first, few minutes to now. So we're starting to open up right now. or I'm starting to open up to you, and this is going to be something that's fun, and hopefully we can continue this, and hopefully you can always look back on this first episode with a lot of a lot of what I like to call being proud of your work. And see, I didn't like that. See, that's me just yapping right there. But hopefully we can look back on this episode with a lot of pride, and then from there we can see the journey from this episode to the rest of the episodes. Again, there you go. I'm yapping again. This is again. There's gonna be moments when I blank out and I just start talking, and I try to perfect what I'm saying, and I try to sound more profound than I actually am. So with that note, we're going to end today's show.